Hi, and welcome back to Your Future, Your Finances. I'm your host, Brian Kuhn. We're talking again with Evan Koslow, family law attorney. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Before that break, we were talking about the initial steps of somebody coming in. They just figured out that they're probably getting divorced, so they obviously have a lot of questions. What does that consultation typically look like?
So it's generally an hour-long consultation. I set it in for an hour, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter, depending on the facts of the case. A modification of custody, for example, because you're redoing a prior order, that consultation may not be necessarily as long. And what the focus is two parts. One, for me to get all the information I possibly can to provide them with the best options and recommendations that they have. But
like financial information, where people are living, that sort of thing?
Correct. Financial, if it's a divorce, the assets, the debt, the expenses, who's paying what. If there's minor children involved, who's kind of been the primary caregiver, or if it's been equal share, where the kids are going to school, who's paying for what expenses when it relates to the children. But I am also educating them at the end of that as to what the court's abilities are due, because they're the courts are somewhat black and white as to what they can or can't do. And so before I actually go in and tell them what the court may or may not do in their case, or what the court can or can't do in their case, is I always ask my clients, although I know they don't know the law, how do they see this case resolving if they had a magic wand? And surprisingly, a lot of times they're very close as to how I envision this case potentially either resolving amicably outside of court, or potentially what the court may or may not do.
And typically both parties are there with you?
No. So as an attorney, it's one party. You can't meet with both. There'd be a conflict of interest if you meet with both. However, if it's mediation, where I'm the mediator, then I would meet with both parties at that time.
Okay. So if you could give one piece of advice to somebody who just came to the realization that they might be getting divorced, what would it be?
It would be that you talk to at least one attorney, if not two, before you make any decision, before you even leave the house, before you even speak to the other party, be it the mother or father, the child, or your spouse. Because knowing your rights before you do anything, in my opinion, is the best thing to do, so at least you can make an educational decision as to how you want to proceed. And I also think in the long run, it will ultimately end up helping not only yourself financially, but the family as a whole, both financially and emotionally, if you have that education.
Especially emotionally, I would think with the kids and the custody scenarios that you go through, that's probably a lot.
Oh, yeah, definitely, especially if there's allegations of abuse in the house. It's very trying.
And there's something you talk about called third-party custody. So third-party meaning, I assume, not either of the parents?
Exactly. And most often it's grandparent custody. They can't call it grandparents, but 9 out of 10 times it's a grandparent or another relative, for that matter, that's looking to either obtain custody or visitation of the minor child that's not theirs. Pursuant to Supreme Court case law as well as Maryland case law, those individuals are on a lower footing than the biological parent or adopted parent. And so they would have to prove that both parents are either unfit or exceptional circumstances have occurred. Exceptional circumstances could be that they are the ones that took care of the children while the parents were absent, or they had such a regular contact with the child that if they were prohibited to have contact, that it would be extremely detrimental to the child. If that person is able to prove there's either exceptional circumstances or the parents are unfit, then it goes into the best interest of the child standard, which the courts look at when it's two biological parents fighting over custody, and then they'll make a decision what to do, custody or visitation wise.
And that third-party custody typically comes up when the parents can't agree. Like, do you ever have the parents say, for the sake of the child, they should go to the third party?
Oh, definitely. I actually would say more often than not that is the case. Because either the parents understand that they just need a little bit maturing to do, or they're in a current situation that doesn't give them the ability to properly care for their child. And other times they just do it because they know that having a grandparent or another relative involved is helping everybody, not only the parent themselves, but the children involved.
Yeah. So let's say somebody's going through this scenario and they're considering representing themselves. Some things to think about?
Well, so Again, I would at least have a consultation with an attorney just to get some ideas as to what you can or can't do. There are a lot of pro bono resources out there. The court's websites have forms for pro se litigants to be able to use in a template for. And then there's also a pro bono clinic in each courthouse, in the circuit courts of each county. They might have different hours and it might not be open the same from 8 to 4:30, might be a portion of the day. And they will help you fill out those forms. They can't represent you in court, but they'll at least kind of say, okay, this is what you need to do to help collect. So I think the more educated you get, I mean, there are a lot of websites out there that are helpful, but there's also a lot of websites out there that just throw things up and it's not 100% accurate. So I would at least recommend going the route of talking to these attorneys that are giving up their time at the courthouse. Starting July of last year, 2015, the ethic rules for attorneys actually changed, so there could be limited representation, meaning that you don't have to retain an attorney to do the whole entire case for you. They could be behind the scenes and be a ghostwriter for you, or they could just show up for one portion of the hearing and not the whole hearing, and that might be beneficial to some individuals.
In some cases.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, fantastic. Thanks for coming on the show. You have a website you want to share?
Yeah, I do. It's www.koslowlawfirm.com. It's KOSLOW lawfirm.com.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming on the show. You're watching Your Future, Your Finances. We're going to take a break. We'll be back.